Hello. Please, let's start soon because we also have people in streaming and we need to follow with the schedule. ¿Esto funciona? ¿Y la pantalla también de delante? ¿La pantalla? Está apagada. Però, vabbè, doveva esserci un'altra slide, ma non importa. Ok. That's okay, we can go ahead with that one, it's not important. So, thanks everyone, please take your seats when possible. Thank you. Thank you. So, welcome everyone to the second day of the institutional dialogue of the Natural Heritage Mission and let's say our community of practice meeting. It's really nice to see you here again after a very intense day yesterday where we hope you got a lot of information and knowledge that we think we actually got. So thank you very much for making the effort of being here with us. So today today it's a different day. Today it's a community day. We are going to be working together into the building our community, getting to know each other, getting to know the projects. But also we will dedicate the morning to look into the policy recommendations that we want to draft, and we want to gather actually your input on them to make sure that we are doing something that it's of, let's say, tangible and representing the needs of everyone. But before we start with, let's say, the practicalities of the projects, we decided that every time that we meet, our dialogues will be annually, we wanted to bring you some different perspectives or different ways of looking at things or let's say, process of thinking that are not the common ones that we normally hear, I guess, in our context, in our discussions, and we want to try to do that every time we have our annual dialogue. So to have a keynote that actually looks at policy, science, and the way these things are interconnected. But as I was saying, from a different paradigm, from a way of thinking that it's not the one that we are let's say, always receiving, or that is some sort of more, let's say, provocative for us. So we think that this is really necessary. We are here, and this is an opportunity. You came from very far away. You took flights of 10 hours, and you name it, just to be here. So let's bring you something that is of value, that maybe make you think in a different way. This is a bit the goal that we have for the first keynote. And we are absolutely honored to have with us Mario Giampietro. He is a renowned scientist and researcher. He recently retired from his position as ICREA, as a research professor at the Institute for Environmental Science and Technology of the Universidad Autónoma de Barcelona. He worked and still works on the integrated assessment of sustainability issues using concepts from complex systems theory. He developed a novel methodology, multi-scale integrated analysis of societal and ecosystem metabolism, MUSIASEM, that integrates biophysical and socioeconomic variables across multiple scales, thus establishing a link between the metabolism of socioeconomic systems and potential constraints of the natural environment. Recent research has focused on science for governance and biosemiotics. He has co-authored over 150 publications, including 6 books. So we have a very important person here with us, and we are extremely proud of this and lucky to have you. So Mario, please come to the stage, and please enjoy the thing.
Okay. This works? Yeah, fantastic. Okay, first of all, thanks for inviting me. Good morning to everyone. This is the first talk that I give after retiring. So I had, I changed with the age my goal in life. And after 40 years of having models, numbers, this would be the first time I'm not presenting any number or any things. I'm start reflecting on why we have such a bad sustainability science, okay? We have a sustainability science that is based on the circular economy. Circular economy is against the law of thermodynamics. You cannot eat your own excrement, or let alone if you want to increase the size, because the new one, who excrement will eat? I mean, it's something that is, and then you have to reflect, how is it possible that we have the plan A for our sustainability that is based on something that is against thermodynamic laws? So, I mean, I believe that. And then I realized that it's perfectly useless. I keep doing models to show that it's not possible. There is no way you decarbonize in 20 years. There is no, it's against all possible law. The electric cars will never go anywhere. I mean, that there are a lot of things that if you start doing some back on the envelope calculation, not very sophisticated things, you realize that simply are not possible. So the real question is why we are getting into it. So this, I didn't make it. This is a real garden of the European Commission. And then they have the oil stick. I think that nobody did it on purpose, but I think this is fascinating about the fact that institutions have to ignore uncomfortable knowledge, things they are not useful for telling everything is okay, we have everything under control, no problem. So I don't know how many of you can recognize this. It's a famous movie. It's called Matrix. And it's the people who are living in a society they were talking that is a way. At a certain point, the guy is the one that you don't see. You see only the nose. Say, take this pill, and you will see that basically it is not true. You are living in a different type of reality. So this is why I'm trying to do, telling, first of all, we are using policy legend for discussing of sustainability. And I think this is why is this. So let's start with this. How many of you know this curve? This is the Killian curve. It's the accumulation of CO2 in the atmosphere. This is empirical evidence, 60 to now. And basically, the CO2 in the atmosphere has been increasing monotonically. Okay? Then you can have the Rio de Janeiro, the Kyoto Protocol, the COP, the Paris Agreement. I mean, these are major events. And then on. And it seems that nobody feel ashamed. I mean, nobody protests. We are sending every year thousands of people to waste time and pollute the air with thousands of airplanes to do something that evidently is totally useless, okay? So this is something that I found is fantastic. It is very nice because the last one is a conference about climate, but they are discussing about feed the poor. You know, we could have how to take out the mosquitoes. I mean, this is a conference on the climate that they should have an agreement to reduce emission, no feeding the poor. I mean, I'm not against feeding the poor, of course, but I mean, guys, por favor, no? Oh, okay. Oh, this is a meme, really nice. What is a climate-tard? A person that believes that you solve the problem of the environment by paying tax to the government. And the idea how we came out with this tradable permit thing. So this is fascinating. Is those that are emitting, industrial countries, keep emitting, but give money to those that are not emitting so that they can industrialize. When you start to say, how this should reduce emission? Nobody knows. I mean, nobody but economists. Economists have an explanation. It's called the Kuznets curves. They say, yes, the rich are polluting, but then the poor countries, when they became richer, they pollute less. So if we all became less, we were polluting less. And then we will see from where they get this, which is amazing because in reality, the rich country are polluting more first, and second, they reduce their emission because the GDP is done with financial operation and not with industry, and they import industrial products from China. So you are externalizing the emission elsewhere. So there is no relation whatsoever between GDP and emission. Okay. This is another proof about the decarbonization, that in 10 years we will have decarbonization. As a matter of fact, the only thing that worked so far has been, let's see if it works. No, I don't have angle. However, the Lehman and Brothers collapse, and then the COVID. They were the only two occasions in which we reduce a little bit the consumption of fossil energy. That is going up, including coal, because it's another legend that we are reducing consumption of coal that is unclear from where this is coming. And this is from where the policy legend of Kutzner curve came out. This is a country, Spain, with the GDP, energy use, emission, and energy intensity, which is the ratio between GDP and emission. And then you have the second year, in which they are different. And of course, the GDP goes up, the energy goes up, the emission goes up, but less than the increase in the GDP. So according to this indicator, this economic growth is reducing emission. And really, it is what we are using to analyze what is happening, when to do these COP meetings. I mean, because at a certain moment we have to reflect how this is happening. Okay. So what is the problem? That if you are flying on an airplane, you want to do well, you need a lot of information, not just the energy intensity. So we can have indicator as simple as possible, but not too simple. So what happens is you don't want to fly on this airplane. And that this would be the economic energy intensity. It's just one indicator, but there are many, many more that you should consider. Okay. Okay, another point is how, oops, this is in Italian. Oh, who knows? While the emission goes up, the models of the European Union tells you then we will go well, no? It's going down, no problem. And this reminds me of a fantastic joke of two mathematicians. They have on the left a question, on the right a question, are completely unrelated. And he said, and then a miracle occurs. That this seems to be the way at the Commission are we doing things at the moment. At a certain moment, in 10 years, we stop emitting. Nobody knows how, and oh no, it's unbelievable. Okay, but how credible is this one? Okay. Jesus, I don't know because it's in Italian. Oh, guys, however. Okay, the biofuel are not getting anywhere. I cannot say, there. Then we have a big problem in using intermittent and wind energy because we don't have batteries. So the intermittent produce electricity when it's not needed, or they don't produce when it's needed. So it is not simple to say we are producing this amount of electricity. You have to produce electricity when it's needed, because otherwise you're going to put it in the grid. A grid is like a water pipes. If nobody opens the faucet, you're going to put water in. And if you don't put water when they are opening the faucet, nothing happens. So at the moment they are using two types of base loader. They give the base, and then they have pickers that put water when it's needed. You put intermittent, a disaster, because you start putting things in when they are not needed. It's a major problem for the grid. So unless you don't have batteries, they are not very helpful. The hydrogen, big promise, let's see, when I was a kid, we were waiting hydrogen in 20 years. Now they passed many 20 years, and still we are waiting for hydrogen. But there is a much bigger problem, this one. When you are investing energy to save energy, for a moment you get in a negative area, what is called energy cannibalism. No? So you spend energy, and after a while you start saving, And after a while, you have the break-even, where finally your investment is paying back. Okay? So what is the problem? If this is true, you will have an increase in emission. You cannot have a model that gives you that we start decreasing emission. Really, only economists can do this type of model, because we will have to build new factories. Moreover, we are talking about all things that take 15 years to be built. So it is not clear how they do it for the 2030 or 2040s. And the more you want to do quick the things, the more the peak of emission will be high. Okay. So yeah, only for the construction of windmill now, we were expecting 800 million metric tons of coal. And then this is something that if you have time, you can check. It's a very short booklet done by Václav Smil, that is most famous energy analyst of the world. It goes into the prediction of the commission one by one and say this is completely absurd what the hell they are doing. They are saying, no? This is really nice. Also because it's not technical, it writes very in an easy way, it's not aggressive. Okay, so just you go in alternative like lithium mining will be a disaster. But there is another problem, like this is a picture of 2023, when in India they passed a law to use as much as possible coal for electricity. This is ridiculous. As a matter of fact, this is a picture now, and it is too much. On the other hand, India needs electricity for run its economy. You can say it's bad for the emission, but if you do not have electricity, you have to shut down all the industries. So we are all in favor of low emission, nice environment, whatever, but we have to be realistic about, okay, so what we do if we stop using fossil energy tomorrow? In the same way, China, that talks a lot about decarbonization, especially coal, if you're looking, the consumption of coal keep going up. Why? Because they are in the same situation of China. They have to produce electricity, and at the moment they do it by coal. So this is a technical, we can skip, is the calculation of Václav Smil. They say basically all the things that we do with fossil energy, we do not have alternatives, and let alone for the liquid fuel. At the moment, liquid fuel, they tried with biofuel. It's been 30 years with biofuel. It never went anyway. So basically, this idea that we can replace at the large scale fossil energy, it really doesn't match with the technical reality. Okay. So now they go to the second part of the talk is why we are doing policy legend. And I don't know if you know the Plato Noble Lies on Republic, that in order to stabilize a country, you have to give noble lies. We can do it, we all together, this is what we are, and then this is what keep together and give credibility to the social process. And of course, toxic truth is when you say, no, this is not true, this is not possible. I'm telling you, we did a big project with the Commission, was 7.8 million, to study the robustness of the narratives of use for sustainability policies. And when we found that one by one the narratives were not particularly robust, let's put it this way, of course the logic is, I mean, we cannot come out and say, we don't have the slightest idea what to do. We are doing badly, but we don't have any fix that can be operated in a few years. So this idea of toxic truth and noble lies is more serious than just a joke. No, should we go for Houston? We have a problem, or don't worry, we have a solution. Because are the two.
L'accord de Paris pour le climat est accepté.
This is one of the things. Please look, they are just hugging each other. They cry, we save the world. And we see that nothing happened. It's just their opinion, I mean, really. And what is really interesting about this is the next video. The next video is the liquefaction of the San Gennaro Sunk in Naples. Each year they go there and they have the miracle that the blood of San Gennaro became liquid. And you see this, we get it, that everyone. So you see that this type of meetings do not have any rational basis or scientific basis. This is about building shared values, socio-technical imaginaries that keep together the society. And this is a very nice paper. I recommend it to everybody. It's fantastic. The idea that since the society is refusing systematically to discuss of uncomfortable knowledge, then you have a social construction of ignorance in science, environmental policy. The paper is lovely. I mean, I really recommend to everybody to read it. Okay, so just to give you an example, in the MAGIC project, we were working on a high-level panel of, I don't know, energy transition, I don't remember. So, I mean, let's go to the high-level panels for COVID, and we're all people that were working with health, epidemiology, things like that, no? Then let's go what we get in the panel of a high-level panel of energy. Okay, there was a theoretical physicist, a minister of economic affairs, an inventor of biopolymers, PhD in economics for the faculty of law, a board member of a perfume company, I don't remember, it was like Chanel, I don't remember, and a professor of insurance and finance, PhD in economics and human source management. Why you would have this panel advising about how to change the energetics of Europe? I mean, when I studied, this is my old book, in the 70s, there was a discipline called energetics, in which you were studying the interaction between transformation, no? And how it is possible that all this type of information, this energetic started in 1900, and then there are plenty of books of it, is completely ignored. You have people in the perfumes industry advising how to do the energy transition. I mean, and also, if you ask the guy, this is Vaglas Milde, we talked before, and this is, I know him by the way, he spent all his time to go with big mutual fund, financial fund, to advise about energy. So why banks ask energy expert in the European Union perfume thing? Because must be some reason for this, no? Okay. So this is all the books of him showing the basic of what they are doing is impossible. Okay. So what is the reason? This is Habermas. And he said, if we don't want to have any more the identity of nation based on history, because then you start getting war, you know, France against Germany, you must have a virtual future. So we no longer have a shared past, we have a virtual future. Therefore, we must have a Nobel Prize about what we can do. No? This is the Green Deal, no-net emission by 2050, economic growth decoupled from resource, no person, no place left behind. Probably nobody really believed that this is possible, but doesn't matter. This is what you want to believe in order to build together the socio-technical imaginaries of European people. And then this is the other big object that put together the society, the American dream. So we all became rich, okay? So we have these two things. We all became rich. No matter what problem you have, you solve it with technology. The Cartesian dream and the American dream, and that's it. And then what if this is not possible? This is something that we don't want to accept. If you have the American dream is taken out, this is a fantastic cartoon of De Rotto. Sorry, my friend, the social conquer were only temporary concessions. Nobody wants to take in consideration this, okay? So what happened? Then you start using science in a different way. How you are using science in two ways, to generate useful knowledge or to legitimize the institution. So this is coming from the French Revolution. Before you had a king, say the king says so. And why the king? Because God wants it. Then that's it. Now you say the government say that you have to pay tax. And why I have to believe the government? Because they follow scientific evidence. No? So at a certain point, to get rid of the aristocrat and the clerical part, with the French Revolution, we substitute religion with science. I had to believe the government. And then we start with the problem, because then we are in a situation in which science has to get rid of on the side of the government and no longer in the independent state. In the clerical part, with the French Revolution, we substitute religion with science. I had to believe the government. And then we start with the problem, because then we are in a situation, and this is a certain point to get rid of economy is a policy of the government is needed to stabilize in the independent state. In the clerical part. So now we can revolution. This is religion. So this is a fantastic quote of Gramsci. The old world is dying, and the new world struggles to be born. Now is the moment of monsters. Okay, we no longer have the old. The old paradigm is not working. We are not willing to put a new paradigm, and we are totally lost. Okay, so we can use a little bit of biosemiotics, if you don't mind. And this is Luhmann. Luhmann say, what is a society? A society is an interaction between communication, that is among the members of the society, and interaction with the society, with this environment, and the society among these members. Okay? So then you have the identity, means from Latin idem and idem. What we are communicating about the socio-technical imaginary has to be realized in social practice. And by doing this commuting, we get better representation and we get better social practice. We learn, okay? So then, social practice have on one side the ecological system, so the biophysical part, and the other side, the psychic structure. We are all part of the society, but then there is a part of us that is us.
Be sure that we are at each specific moment of history, because this is changing
so in order
dynamically.
To work well, you must
Some
have
50 years ago, we have this different society,
with the environment,
to the
and
authority.
the people are happy to belong to this society. Otherwise, we
just to talk about data,
we became criminal and so on. So you have on the left why we are doing what we are doing. On the right, we have how we know what we have to do, and then how we want to change our purposes, and then basically in this way you are going around the semiotic cycle.
Puede plantear
What is happening. Then depending on what you are perceiving, you decide that maybe it's time to change something. As soon as you change something, you define new purpose, new explanation why you are doing something. Then this is included in the institution. Then use science and things to tell how to do things. So in the left, you have the formation of moral power. On the right, you have the formation of political power. And this is the continuous loop that makes possible to society to learn. Okay, basically this is the same. What is the problem? That if you have this, at a certain point we have now, and this is the continuous loop, the American dream, the Cartesian dream, as a society imaginaries, and then the only things you can put is basically technical innovation, business model will solve all the problem. Okay, this is the dying old world. This is no longer working, but this is what we have at the moment inside our system. And then, if you're looking at in terms of governance, what happened? You have this myth of the American dream and the Cartesian dream, and this myth affect the policy. And then, even though this policy, this explanation are not supported by scientific evidence, you still go for circular economy and things like that. And then there is a problem of lock-in. The society cannot find another circuit in which it can put together our feeling, our shared values, and our norms and institutions. So what happened here? You would need toxic truth to break the lock-in on old socio-technical imaginaries. But unfortunately, if you have a delusion of lies, like we have at the moment, circular economy, green, grow, blah, 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 you do not get the negative feedback, and then, basically, we are getting in what is called ancien regime syndrome. The government, the society is no longer capable of reading negative feedback that is receiving about the fact that it doesn't work. Okay? Okay, so one conclusion that I want to flag to you, that we do not properly understand the problems that we are having, and we should be important to start changing this as soon as possible. That maybe we are living in a sort of psychotic delirium. We cannot check directly the reality, so we have hallucination and disorder. For example, there is not economic growth. You know, starting the Lehman Brothers collapse, the GDP increased much less than the debt. So basically, what is increasing is not added value done by the economy, but is the debt, the printing of money that we are doing. And after that, it was even worse. So this is important because it is not true that we are having economic growth. We are printing money, and we are screwing up the currency and the saving of poor people. Why this is important? Because we already did this in the past. In the past, in Alexandria before Christ, they were calculating the diameter of the planet, and 800 years later, we were saying that the planet is flat. I think so. You may have that scientific knowledge is just ignored because of political reason. It's not that, never happened. Okay, so this is fantastic. Again, the Roto, Petrolio, no, Gasolina sì. And they are now suing the oil companies for the CO2 emission. So I was thinking about the National Association for the Advancement of Fat People, and then basically they should sue farmers for producing food, because it's exactly the same, no? The emissions are not done by Shell or the other. The emissions are done by the people driving cars. So it is fantastic that we are suing those that are producing gasoline, but not those that are using gasoline. So it's the same like blaming the farmers if you are fat. I mean, this is talking about bizarre situation. So this is where we are. I really would like that everyone try to reconsider this situation. And this is the website that we did for the project, the Magic Project. And if you go there, there are PowerPoint, videos, cartoons for each of the 6 narratives that we were looking at. It is nice. Okay, so if you are still alive. Senti, come siamo col tempo? Sì, sì, chiaro. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, sorry if I sit, but I have a terrible back pain, so 2 days that are killing me. Please.
Buongiorno.
Buongiorno.
So, no, I think it was very interesting, and thank you very much, Mario, for this presentation. Actually, what I think, I think it's very interesting to talk about these things, because indeed we are talking to each other, and we are talking to a group of people that is very experienced on these subjects. First of all, I think nobody, even in this room, specifically with all the knowledge they have, indeed believe that these targets can be reached. It's not now, but it's already since many years. Even when the negotiations were aiming to the 1.5, we all knew that it was beyond, and I'm not a scientist, okay? However, from the policy-making point of view, there is a need to create an aspiration, because you need to create convergence, especially in a world where everybody is going in its own direction. So from the policy-making side, there is a perfect understanding that this probably is not reachable, this is probably not the perfect solution, but this is a way forward, because what you are doing, which is great, it's in your role, it's in a certain way you are deconstructing, no? What is being said, but it's far more challenging to construct something. It's very easy to deconstruct, it's far more challenging to construct. Yeah. So how to construct, how to, sorry, just to be very blunt, because I think it's a super interesting discussion. So let's, GDP. Agreed. It's absurd that we are still using the GDP. So the focus should be on why we are still there, because as you said, it's a crucial, absurd reference that we are still using. However, over time, satellite accounts have been created. They have been, it's never enough, and it's not enough, but still. Another thing I wanted also to mention, which I think I would like to suggest you to integrate in whatever next presentation you will do, it's about climate change precisely, because the scientific debate around climate change was an example of the conflicts of the scientific community in itself, because that has brought to a lot of misleading information or politicized, whatever you want, but it has created a lot of false understanding to the point that people still indeed believes that you can prove that climate change doesn't exist through some scientific data. And just to conclude, again, of course, circularity is a concept. Many of the countries, I'm talking of all the Euromed countries that are working also around it, tell you, even at all the meetings, we know this is an aspiration, this is not going to work 100%, but what we try is indeed to improve. I mean, we are still in a logic where you have planned obsolescence, for example. So in a certain way, to go back to a normal path where this doesn't exist, you try to build a concept around which, people can aspire. In our case, we just called our environmental agenda, which is the Euro-Mediterranean agenda, greener med, very humbly, just to say that, let's try at least to work on that. So very interesting, and thank you very much.
If I can reply, I mean, I've been doing it for 40 years. This, I mean, I'm telling you, you have 400 million car going with thermic engines. How we solve the problem? By making 400 million cars electric? No. Abolish private property of car and force sharing. You have to challenge the social practice. If you are just repeating what we... Yeah, the institution, social practice include the organization of the institution. So what happened? If we remain on the analysis, doesn't go, I do something that substitute this. This world here has been created and evolved to consume as much as possible oil, okay? You do not keep this by taking out oil and put wind. No, it is not possible, no. If you put whatever numbers you want, how many hours you need, just to give, people do not know. All the energy that we consume in 1 year in Europe is made available by 8 hours of work in the energy sector. You divide the energy that you consume by the hour worked in the energy sector, 8 hours per capita. This includes airplanes, trains, trucks, whatever. This implies 1,400 gigajoule per hour. If you do whatever else of this ridiculous biofuel, we are 400. You should have 40, 50 times more people in energy sector, and then you will not have any people working in the service sector. I mean, things are so big that really it is not particularly difficult, because you say it is better, we are going in the right direction. No, these solutions do not exist. These are legend. It is not possible, period. We have to start changing what we do. Share the cars, period. Because look what happened with Musk. Musk was fantastic. He made the Tesla. When we get billions and billions, he sold the Tesla. Now we are, with the alternatives, in a situation of take the money and run. All this company goes for subsidies. We spend, I don't know, many billions per year for biofuels. So we did a few papers during the project to see where is written in the European things that biofuels are good. No longer. It's 10 years that biofuels are taboo in all the official documents of the Commission. And he said, why they are still spending, I don't remember now, 18 billion, I don't remember. But I mean, it's to preserve the investment of those that are in the field, you see? So we have a lot of problems. We have to do new things, batteries, working on better batteries, whatever, and we spend a fortune on things that are dead. We know that they will not get anywhere. So it is, I disagree on the fact that it's better. No, because if you are doing something that absolutely is a non-starter, don't put money on it.
Thank you. So I just wanted to remind, we have one here, then the man there, someone else, so that this is what we wanted. This is a provocative speech, and this we wanted this discussion. We're not here like going to solve anything, nor attacking what we are doing. This is not the point. This is really a point to think and move forward with that.
Yeah, just and I'm trying to reflect on as a citizen and also as part of the civil society community, working a lot and following and tracking climate policies, in particular environmental policies, at EU and at the global level. So I really hope first that the climate targets or any environmental targets are not only aspirational. I think, at least within the EU, it should not be the case because those are legal commitments. So this is not just we want to be there. There is some obligations. And I understand what you are saying, that those, we don't really know how to achieve it, right? That's what you're saying. And maybe with the current policies in place, we're not going to achieve it. That's what you are saying as well.
Yeah.
And we need to change not only the regular economic system, improving a bit, some small pieces, but to run a massive systemic structural change. That's what you are saying. So working on social practices. That's, you know, how you did, do you need a car? Or 1 or 2 cars per family, or you need 1 or 2 cars per 10 families. That's a change in social practices. But I think the objectives are legal obligations, and there is a lot, and coming from, again, the civil society, there is a lot of work being done, and you mentioned one of them. Actually, that was by Californian governments, it was by a public authority. But we see in Europe, at least, different NGOs challenging on court the climate targets in Netherlands, in France, in Germany, with a lot of impacts. And this is going to happen because you're right. I mean, we have targets, but governments, they don't really know how to reach them. And the policies are not delivering, basically. It's not you know, coping with the change we need. So we need to put a lot of pressure. So I don't think it's only aspirational. It has to be based on evidence and you know, science, and this is where we have this kind of internal fight, because if we really want to achieve this, it means a lot of change, and we don't really know how the society can cope with it. And because we live in a world where it is highly polarized, and there's a lot of misinformation and a lot of far right. You might have seen yesterday, Romania, what's happening in Romania, and so on. So it's not a simple game. It's not only about climate, environment. This is also about politics, about, you know, values. So this is a dirty game, and I think we have to be ready to play with that. And you know, I don't want to say we have to, to change. Try, you know, we have to keep our democratic values and so on. But this is a dirty game, and I think there is some very interesting initiatives at the global level, and in particular also within the EU, trying to work on the misinformation, to develop counter-narratives. Because this is key, because otherwise we will not reach our targets, and we will actually don't going to change any social practice. That could be good, very positive, but we need to work a lot on social, and I think not only on hardcore climate policies, but a lot on governance, on social practices, and this is much more challenging than just, you know, saying, oh yes, let's go for 1.5, but how we do that, we don't know. Right.
Yeah. Well, I remember when I was in a big conference in Brussels, and they were discussing 1.5 degrees, 1.5 degrees. And they had like 2 weeks before 2 papers on science saying that if you're looking at the lock-in of the building of the power plant in China, they are already well beyond the 1.5 because, you know, they are building every week or every 2 weeks new power plant, and this power plant enter in line, remain 20 years working because they have to pay back for the investment. And so I raised my hand. He said, guys, well, we are discussing at 1.5 degrees. This is impossible. And he said, very nice question. Next question, please. This is the point, because there is a big risk, the logic of the Commission to have this roadmap. Before doing a roadmap, you have to look whether or not you have a river in the middle, other things. Because it's not just to make a roadmap, to see how or whether it is possible to go where you want to go. Because if you do a roadmap based on the use of flying donkeys, that is fantastic, reduce emission, there are no flying donkeys. Let's talk of something else. And then what is missing, I mean, I told for my personal interest, are models. They are capable of looking at the same time what is possible for the society and what is possible for the ecosystems. We don't have it. Economy looks only at the society. That is the price, the value of ecosystem, all the other legend. You have to have ecological analysis to see whether or not you are damaging an ecosystem, know the values that you want to pay. And we do not have it, period. We, as you say, we do not know how to change what we are doing, or whether this is possible or not possible. And this is my biased opinion. If we want to change the situation, we should start looking at why we got in this trouble. Because we should not use fossil energy. Stop. Why we started use fossil energy? Why went up with 90% of fossil energy into it? There is someone that can explain it? No. If you cannot explain it, you cannot explain how you get out. You see, I don't know, because again, I didn't bring numbers or things, but just to give an idea, you have 60% of the population which is dependent. The 40% work only for 2,000 hours per year, even less. So basically, you have a 10-hour work per capita per year in the paid work sector. 70% goes in the service sector. Basically, we do not have in our society enough labor of time to do what we producing, what we are consuming. And this is what we do. We rely on fossil energy because it gives us a productivity of labor incredible, and relies on import. And when we cannot do it, we make debt. This is how we work at the moment. Do we want to change it? Okay, yes, I am in favor of this. This is why I'm making model. But let's start with this data, not with we set by law that this cannot be, because you can put all the law that you want. The donkeys do not fly, even if you make a law.
Thank you. Thank you. Just I leave it for gathering another question, another one here. I don't know if we have anyone else with a burning question. Okay, so we have four burning. Then after the fourth, we go ahead with your second part of the presentation, if that's okay, and we do the bingo before the coffee break, because you need to get out, and I know if you get out, you will never come back. So, yeah.
Yes, thank you. You put the emphasis on science, but we all know that science is far from being unanimous on this issue. As was also the case, I mean, in the COVID period, especially when, scientists of the sector, doctors, were against the vaccination. So, I mean, what do you expect from the society if the science is, they don't agree on all these principles? And some administration, and I'm thinking about one that will take over next January, a big country, I mean, they, let's say, based on this science, on the other side of science, I mean, and to apply their policies. So,
thank you for the question. I've been working a lot on what is called post-normal science. What happened if you have to admit that your analysis has a lot of uncertainty, and then you have a legitimate perspective. This will be the next presentation. But what happened, what the society has to do, to stop to use science as a religion, that tell you what is the good things to do, the science gives you information. And you have to check, so what happened is, we have to be good at generating processes that are controlling the production and use of information, of scientific information. We can no longer having experts that are affected by big lobbies telling what is the best thing to do, to politicians that are telling the expert what is the best thing to do. Because this is not getting anywhere, and then this has to be changed. And this has to be changed by society, not by scientists. We don't stop that the scientists know better. Scientists know something, give you some information, has to defend this against other scientists that see different point of view with different models, and it's a procedural problem, because the science will never be perfect, it will never be able to tell you what to do. This is not the role of science. This is the new role of science after we made it as a religion. But originally it was not.
Yes, hello. Here.
Ah.
Yeah. My name is Ana Roter and I'm from Slovenia. I really liked your talk, but you must be a nightmare in conversations because you are deconstructing our system of beliefs or a dogma, I don't know. And you are always, no, I don't know you, but, but you are on every positive thing that we are developing, you have a negative criticism. Biofuels don't work. Circular economy doesn't work. So why don't we try and then you say, okay, we tried it, it doesn't work. Don't, you know, we are romantic, we want to try. Biofuels, I agree with you. And because we want to keep people having their jobs, we still invest in that, okay. But for others, other topics, biomaterials, let us try and then let's see. Let's not be immediately negative. You are provocative and I am.
I believe that this depends on the difference of age. I was in the States in 80s. My first paper on biofuel was 88, I believe. And then we did a war against the ethanol. No? They spent 19 billions. It was a total disaster, both in the States and Brazil. So what I'm saying is not that why don't we try and see. We tried, we saw. In Energiewende with the intermittent in Germany, they spent 300 billions. If you're looking now, they are producing with the same peaker, same loader, and there is an enormous amount of wind power capacity that is completely useless. As a matter of fact, since the activists forced they to put the intermittent in the grid with priority over the other, it is complicating the handling of the grid. So what I'm saying is not that let's try. We tried. We tried. It's like the flat land and the things. We tried. We know. The people who don't want to know it, they want to believe that there is a solution. This is fantastic. People get offended if you say, look, we don't have an alternative to fossil energy. They get offended. How is this possible? It's not my fault. It's like you have to die, no? How is it possible? We have to die. I mean, there are things that happen. I mean, nobody's fault. So we should learn this because at the level of society, we are all immortal, and whatever happens, we solve it with technology. This is not the way of framing sustainability analysis. So I don't know. I admit that I am a little bit autistic and old, because after 40 years of doing this job, unless you become autistic, otherwise you have to say biofuel, fantastic. We will go all with I mean, guys, I don't. You get interview for people of the commission that they say that you have to do things by hand, so you increase labor demand. You know. No, yes, a fantastic idea. We could cut the wheat one by one with a scissor. How many jobs we can do? I mean, it seems that, no. So you became autistic because at a certain point you stop having discussion because...
Thank you. And remember that he said he was going to say uncomfortable give uncomfortable truths and knowledge. And this, we feel uncomfortable, but the crisis that we are facing, you are, of course, focusing on energy. We focus maybe more on biodiversity, but the trend is exactly the same. And we talk about 2030. Either we do something serious or we keep telling each other.
No, I work the majority of my life on agriculture. That's even worse. You don't want to get there. Energy is nothing compared with agriculture.
We don't want to know now.
No.
Yeah.
No, I mean, guys, this is fantastic. Farmers are disappearing on this planet. In Japan, average age 70. So they don't have agriculture anymore. In Europe, 60, more or less. whatever developing countries, farmers are going on the last switch off the light. Nobody cares. I mean, if you have panda, gender trans issues, whatever, I have to protect that. The farmers can disappear, nobody cares. I mean, that this is urban elite delirium that where we are at the moment. However, sorry. No, the farmer is amazing.
Okay. Yeah, I think it's perhaps much more complicated even, because even the society is under attack by authoritarian regimes, and they have learned well also their play. So if you look at China, for example, they know that they are, for now, they are investing they are playing on the capitalism side, but they are not, for now, there's no return. They know, for example, when they are investing for now in the electric car industry, this is, first of all, to challenge the industry in Europe. So they are playing their cards, and they know how this system functions. But their idea is, of course, to destroy, to get to be the champions, more or less. And I think in that sense, it is very complicated, even because this rational discussion that we had from the Enlightenment, like, okay, we have something is falling down, so Newton, he discovered it is perhaps an energy that is coming from something, and this rational discussion, and we go back to, it's more or less again to turn back to belief, and you have to choose your field, you are on that side or on the other side. So science is under pressure because belief is taking over a little bit. So the question is how to get back to this, since the French Revolution, this Enlightenment, this rational discussion. First of all, to have a common base, to continue to discuss on the same level. Because if I'm discussing on the belief side, I don't know, it's very, very complicated to find an agreement.
I don't know, like, for instance, circular economy. I've been in circular economy, yes, for thousands of years. Before the Industrial Revolution and the Middle Age, we were in a circular economy. Nobody likes too much to be there. The quality of life of a king in 1400 is less than the quality of life of a post-mill here now. So we have to look at reality as well, in the sense the real issue is that if you want to do something in harmony with the nature, you will have a productivity of land per hectare and per hour, which is way, way too low compared with the productivity of land and labor that we have at the moment. So you will not capable of have this population and this amount of cities. We have 70–80% of population urban, no? Never, ever in the history of humankind we had more than 80% of population urban. Why this? Because, if you go in ecology, you have 1 kilo of tiger for how many kilos of herbivore for how many kilos of plant. Now we have all herbivores consuming 10 times more, and no carnivores, and no herbivores and no plant. This is not natural. I mean, that's it.
Yeah, thank you for the talk. Very provocative, I would say. And I would put a line, at the end of your, presentation, and put my conclusion, which is a bit pessimistic, but it's okay. Today we talk. Humankind, societies, we like or we live in legends, and I think nature today is already telling us the toxic lie, which is becoming truth actually, and we will have to, to understand it and react, in order to forget about the legends of today and understand what nature is telling us.
Yes, exactly.
The toxic lie.
No, it's telling us the toxic truth.
The toxic truth, yeah. That's what I want to say, of course.
Yeah.
So that's how I understood your your talk.
Yeah, but I mean, the more you are listening to nature, the more you get a weaker side of society. We have a society in which, by definition, you can do whatever you want. You have human rights for whatever. I'm not sure that this is natural. I have a student, this is fantastic. They got a Marie Curie. So $350,000, no? So she got in maternity the week after getting this. She was in Boston. She said in maternity she did the first baby, then he got, they say, disease. Then he got another baby. Then he got another time in disease. At the end of the 3 years, she returned in Barcelona. He spent $350,000 for the Becca. She never, ever did anything. So, of course, I am in favor of human rights, whatever. But is this a right or a privilege? How many people on this planet are given 350,000 euros to make two kids? So, I mean, we are now considering normal things that are not normal. So, then the real issue here is now to, what Erotto was saying, no? What we are having now as a social conquest, in reality, maybe they are temporary bonus. Maybe we cannot afford in the future to have the quality of life that we are having now. I'm not pessimistic because in the 60s, we were consuming in terms of energy in Europe, half of the energy we are consuming now. And I don't think that in the 60s, the Beatles, things, people were less happy than now. So it is just that you have to change the way you do things. But for sure, more of the same that we are doing now is not possible. The sooner we start discussing this, the better. Doing roadmap doesn't matter. I mean.
Any other reactions? Okay.
No, but please give us some optimistic idea, because if not, we shall stop working, no? We shall not have a car, we shall not eat, we shall, I don't know what to do. But an optimistic way
Again, I'm not pessimistic, I'm telling you, in the 60s, we were consuming half of the energy we are consuming now. Now we have internet, but of course, we should start using these new tools to do something else. Because if you keep doing the things to do more of the same, and I don't even think that the people are better off now. I mean, if you look all the people, the kids now, they're taking pictures to themselves just to prove that they exist. I mean, when I was young, we knew that we existed, we have something to do in life. We were believing that we were creating a society. I was throwing cocktail Molotov. I mean, I was trying to change the society. These new people go to the concert of
it's true, but also
and taking pictures of themselves. So I'm not even sure that we are generating a new generation of people that, in spite of all the resources that we are using, are happier than we were when we were younger.
It's not happier. We will always be happy because we are human beings and we believe in things and we like doing things. Even if it's with a cell phone or with a ball or whatever will be our kids will do. I think that life is that. Yes, we have done many mistakes maybe. Yeah, I agree with you. But we cannot stop trying. I think that we shall finish like this, no? At least try one by one, no? A step at a time. And,
but I'm in favor of this. Let's try to do something else.
Okay.
Okay, so I play with Vera in the optimistic team. I'm not going to discuss either if we are happier now rather than we were some years ago. I think in some aspects we are happier, in some aspects we are not that happy. But I think I can somehow give a testimony on the real things that happen. For instance, when you speak about roadmaps, we have also not roadmaps but legislation. And we have very, very demanding goals, let us say, and you can even call them unachievable. But I would say, because I have the luck to work in the field in my country, that is Portugal, and I can testify that in a municipal point of view, and we are talking about local authorities of places that sometimes just have kind of 5,000 inhabitants, because our country, like most in Europe, we are facing some problems with rural areas, population getting smaller and so on. But these people, the mayors, the municipalities, they are actually implementing strategic operational plans, and they are actually reducing their energy consumption, their CO2 emissions, not only in their specific action, like municipal buildings, public lighting, and so on, but they are also making the people, and they are making companies to be more efficient. So this is somehow optimistic. It's not a guarantee that the unreachable objectives will be met, but at least they are trying. And this is very positive, I would say. Thank you.
You're welcome. Look, what I can say is that it is important that, let's imagine when they do the Energiewende, when they did the Energiewende in Germany, if they said we have 300 billion euros, all the towns present projects for doing alternative electricity, and then you select the best project and you give the money to the community, to the town. No, they give the money to Siemens to make turbines. You see the point? This is where I don't like it. Because you know better. So we have to make more wind turbines. No. Give the money to the community, say, okay, make a project, let's see whether this project is reasonable. You maybe will have 80% of the project were bullshit, but the other 20% good. And then you can build on the 20% on doing other things. But I mean, this idea that you know better, you do the map, road map, you fix the 1.5, no. Personally, I don't think it works.
Thank you. Again, I think this is a provocative discussion, and I thank you for that, because we are not used to hear these things. We are used to hear that we do everything great, that the civil society is amazing, which they are. We're not saying no. But the urgency of the climate and biodiversity crisis that we are facing needs that we start thinking differently, all of us. It's not only that decide that we say, you said, well, everybody knows that the circular economy doesn't work. Well, I'm paraphrasing. Well, no, the people on the ground, we think that works. We believe in what we are told. So this is why this need of thinking differently. And we are here listening to a lecture. We are not here as a UCN or whatever. We are listening to an expert that is telling us these things. And I would say, let's take advantage of that.
Okay. Do I go to the next one?
Yeah.
Okay, the second one is sharing with you what I learned about using scientific analysis for governance, okay? So what problem, at a certain point I took a PhD in social science about what are the implications of complexity for the use of science in governance, okay? So, and then we'll go just a few examples of the implication of complexity, the issue of post-normal science, and the methodological approach for a responsible quantification. Maybe it will be too long. You tell me when I could. Okay. Okay, first, what are the implications of complexity? Okay, that we should move away from the idea that you can get smaller, more detailed analysis. No. And to go into the wisdom of George Box, all the models are wrong, some are useful. So learn to use which model are useful for that specific purpose, and then try to combine different type of models together. Why is that? Because the more you are simplifying things, to decide, the more you are generating what is called hypocognition. So in order to have a good decision, you must have a justification why we need to do it. So first of all, you have a concern to be addressed. Who has this concern? This is a very interesting point. Is the concern of the scientists? Is the concern of the policymaker? Is the concern of the stakeholders? Because this is never quite clear. You say, we have to do that. Climate change, 47% of the world population never heard about the word climate change. But we are sure that this is the most important issue for humankind. That it is important to be aware of the fact that it's not necessary the concern that we are addressing with our scientific analysis is a concern shared by everyone. The second, you have a normative narrative, that is what has to be done. That given a same concern, you can solve the same problem in a different way. So there are two things to choose. What is the concern to be, and then you have to prioritize the things. So there are different concerns. Why are you using my concern and not your concern? And the last one is explanation narrative. How do you know what we need to do for dealing with that concern? And these are three quality checks. They are completely different. That to the best of my knowledge, there is not a systemic procedure that forces you to acknowledge that these three choices are crucial and to check how we did it. So let's go for a justification narrative, the why. And this is a fantastic example. And I was taking note when I was young at the conference about food security. And the first came out, first speaker said we should keep the price of food commodity low. And the second speaker said we should keep the price of food commodity high. Then we get another speaker saying we should stop importing from the South food. And then the next one said we should increase the import from the South. Okay, then I was taking notes because then it came out from my notes. And then at a certain point we had about social policy, was preserving local cultural heritage, and fighting local cultural heritage. And then you say, okay, but these are bad experts. Why? How is it possible that you get experts that give exactly opposite advice? So the first one was from the International Food Policy Research Institute. So it was talking about preserving the food security of the urban poor. And of course, you have to have price low. And the second one, the professor of agriculture, they was saying we have to preserve the viability of farmers. So you have to have price high. And the second one was a person from Germany. They said, this is neocolonialism if you are importing from the South. And the other one, we have a comparative advantage in Ghana. If you don't import, we cannot develop. And the fantastic was about the feminist Swiss NGO. It was about preserving local heritage. And then we have a sociologist from India, in which in her state, they were burning the wife alive with the corpse of the husband. And I believe all these advice were perfectly justifiable. So what is the issue here? That depending on the storyteller who decide the original concern, you will have different type of advice. That it is not about being competent or non-competent. It's about deciding which is the concern that is driving the discussion. Just to give an example, this is a dangerous criminal. If you get into a bakery, he's a national hero in Kosovo, no? So in Serbia. When you have this type of different perception, a person is a terrorist or a freedom fighter, making a model doesn't make any sense. Because you have to decide which instance you are sampling in a given category. And this choice is not to do with quantitative analysis. Okay. Then another is about explanation narrative, the representation of a fact. Also, in this case, the truth of the representation of a fact depends on the usefulness of the chosen perception. It doesn't depend on whether or not you prove that your measurement is a fact. Give you an example. This is Mandelbrot, the father of fractal geometry, and his famous paper is about the length of the coastal line of UK. And you can measure what is the coastal line of UK in 2,800 kilometers. This measure can be used by a captain of a tank to decide how much fuel has to put, how much it takes in terms of time to move around. And he can tell you, look, I've been using this, it's a fact, it's 2,300 kilometers. Not 2,800 kilometers. Okay, then you ask a bus driver. You ask how much is the length of the UK? And he will say, no, the length of the UK is 3,400 kilometers because he's using a map with a different x. You are following the example. It's simple. It's the idea when you have a fractal element, you don't have length. It depends on which scale you're looking at. So then you have a scientific controversy, and you get something, a person that says, oh, I go on the beach walking, I'm telling you what is the real length. So if you go walking on the beach, you can find that because of the tide, the coastal line is not there. So at the level of meters, you cannot define the coastal line because it depends on the time of the day. So what is the message here? That you may have contrasting knowledge claims. Scientists say, I tested this. I'm telling you, this is measured, has been checked 1,000 times by all bus drivers, and still, depending on what you are doing, the numbers could not be good. Okay. This is another example for energy analysis. I love it. How much is the equivalent of energy spent by a person working? It could be 0.3 or 1.2 or 3.3 or 40 or 400,000 mega, and then the last one is 20,000 megajoule. How are possible that you have reputable journal publishing papers in which the same measure change 200,000 times, simply because you are defining what is the energy equivalent of 1 hour of labor in different way. This is the energy that you are consuming when you are working compared when we are not working, the energy you are consuming one day over the hours of work, the energy consumed by a household divided by the work of the household, and so on. So you have a problem with the definition. It's not because you find this number of some book. This is the real things. You have to be aware of the fact that these numbers can be whatever, depending on how you are, what type of analysis are you doing. Okay, this is another example of the problem of multiscale. In multidimension, let's imagine you have to get a person at the airport, and Dr. Clark, and you ask, can you send me a picture of you? And she send you this picture. And you say, no, Dr. Clark, this is not exactly the picture that I need. Can you give me a larger picture of you? They say, yes, I am the one indicated by the arrow. Dr. Clark, can you send me a picture of your head? Yeah, this is the picture of my head. And they say, Dr. Clark, I have to pick you up at the airport, so I have to recognize. Now you are telling why you need the information. Now you get the information that you need, okay? So why this is relevant? Because let's imagine that we are making an analysis of how much grain is consumed in the United States per capita, okay? So I do a survey at the level of the house, what they are eating, and they are eating 116 kilos per year per capita. This would be cereals, bread, things. Then you are looking at how much goes in the food system for food consumption per capita, and you get that it's 1 ton per capita. Because then you have to put the grain that goes for feeding the animals, the beer, making liquors. This beer and liquor is more than 116. And then you may have another assessment of how much is produced in the States, the one that is required to keep the farmers economically viable. So this includes as well the export. Or then you may have another assessment of the consumption of Americans per capita is the average intake at the world level. So you are dividing all what is consumed at the world level is 345 kilos. And this is useful to tell you how much the Americans are eating more or less on the other. Huh? So what happened? How can you handle all these numbers? Because all these numbers are useful if you are doing an analysis, but you have to know where they belong in your analysis. So in this way, what you can do is what is called use of grammars, relational analysis over the different data. And then you say, okay, let's imagine we are comparing China and the United States. And you see that in China, they, as a matter of fact, are eating more cereal, grain per capita, in the direct consumption. But they are eating much less if you include the double conversion for animals that is there. And then, so you have an internal loop of grain that is used to produce the beef. Then you have what is produced here and what is exported. If you do a set of relation over the numbers that we saw before, then basically you find the numbers that we had before, but this time you know where they are. So depending on what you are studying, you have to look at this one or the other one, or you talk about nutrition, is the 200, the 120. You talk about agriculture, land, is the one, the domestic supply. You know, it really depends on the type of issue that you're addressing. You will need the different numbers. So it is important that we stop using number randomly you get on a book. It's 35, 35, no. Okay, so narrative things. So this is a book about genetically modified organisms. An Italian book, this is our future, this is what we have to do. And this was a town where I was living when I was in Rome. And this is a town anti-transgenic, because the mayor to be elected promised to do that. No? So again, this is a situation in which what you want to do in normative terms depend on the identity of the storyteller. Let's give you an example of the COVID. Why people are dying during the COVID epidemics? Okay, because there are no oxygen in the brain. So the thing to do is try to put oxygen and keep it alive. Or is affected by COVID, then you have to do some medical treatment. Or there is epidemics, and we need to handle the control of the epidemics. Another explanation is human must die. I mean, everyone laugh about that, but it is a point for evolutionary things. So if we put this type of storyteller with this normative, the coupling is totally absurd. But if we say, okay, the oxygen in the brain in the emergency room, or the medical treatment when you get in the hospital, you get a virologist doing a meeting at the health ministry, or a philosopher discussing about the meaning of life, you get the normative narrative makes sense. So what is the discussion? The normative narratives are neither true or false. The usefulness depends on the chosen concern. They are making them relevant for your analysis. Okay? Okay, so what happened here? That in your real world, you have a combination of storyteller, non-equivalent models, relevant attributes, blah, blah, blah. And then when you start discussing how we want to choose a policy, then you are epistemic boxing this. Of all the possible storyteller, you are just getting a few. Of all the possible things to do, you are just getting a few. And of all the possible explanations, you are considering only a subset. And then from here, you get to a decision. You may decide with the multi-criteria analysis that we will see later on, or cost-benefit analysis. This is the most ridiculous possible solution, but by the way, is the one that used more popularly, or just taking out target in this way, and they say 1.5. Obviously, this is a second simplification, because these things here, to be operated, require the epistemic boxing before. So if the epistemic boxing was bad, this will be bad, no matter how carefully you do this step. So at this point, the only thing you can do is to iterate this a couple of times, trying to see whether or not you are not generating too much hypocognition, taking out when you do the epistemic boxing. Okay, so this is the problem. When you do the epistemic box, you are choosing a how, a what, and a why, and they are locking in each other. And after why, you have a high risk of hypocognition, that you are using a set of how, a set of what, and a set of whys. They are not reflecting what you find in your problems, in your society, and so on. Then, this is the issue that be aware that every time you are quantifying, trying to find what is the best thing to do, cost benefit, whatever, you are always generating hypocognition. You are missing a relevant part of the story. Okay. Now, this is an introduction of why complexity is relevant. The second is postnormal science. How many of you know postnormal science? Nobody? Hypocognition is that you are not considering all the things that were relevant. They are relevant. They should be considered. This is the lack of that when you are framing an issue already with the framework, you are. He was with the growth. That if you are using the growth, you are using the narrative of the growth. So basically, you are using an economic narrative. You're already missing a big chunk of the story to using a narrative. Okay. Okay, so what happened with science when you have a problem of risk or uncertainty? And this is the discussion that we are having before on postnormal science. This is something that took me time to see what can be predicted by science in the future. And then this is the only application that I found. We can predict eclipses. We can predict eclipse of Mars, of stars, very well, because these are the things that are so far away that there are no feedback, no interaction, that more or less, you never know, but you can guess some eclipses. Otherwise, you can have a situation in which you can calculate risk, how much you are risking if you are playing 16 red. If you are in a specially constructed situation in which you are erasing history. So every time that you run the ball here is a new ball game. There is no history. Okay. If you are making prediction of the weather, it's already becoming impossible because you have the famous butterfly effect. Depending on what happened before, you have an impredicative set of causation, and then you cannot predict the weather in 60 days in a place. But this is another aspect here. Alice deciding whether to drink from the drink me bottles. What will happen here? Nobody knows. You are dealing with ignorance, sheer ignorance. No? Then if you are in a situation of this type, asking an expert is completely useless. We have a lot of problems with cow prions, subsistence in building. Things that happen, after they happen, we can explain in the study, blah, blah, blah. Before they happen, nobody knows. This is a very nice example. Marie Curie, one of the first applications of the radio was to make phosphorescent, how do you say, clock, okay? So, but the working in the factory were getting cancer in the mouth because they were using the pencil, the things. Huh? So they had a trial, and they called Air as the maximum expert of radio, and he said, no, absolutely safe. We are using in our lab, otherwise we will not use it. It's unthinkable that this can generate cancer. And again, this was not disinformation, simply she didn't know it. Huh? Okay, so in relation to this point, you have this Silvio Funtowicz and Jerry Ravets that introduce the concept of post-normal science, that say, okay, you have three different areas where science is used, depending on the normative narratives, the uncertainty of the normative narrative. In the justification, you have here normal science when you have to do something simple, making an elevator or a bridge. You call an engineer, more or less knows, you tell some normative things about if it is nice or not, blah, blah, blah. But if the engineer is good, you can trust it. Then you have something that is consultancy. Then the thing is a little bit different. Let's imagine you have to do a delicate surgery. So they can either decide to cut your leg or not. And then, of course, at this point, you nearly want that you can have a say in the decision. So you can say you are a young runner. You say, no matter what, I prefer to die rather than you cut me the leg. Or if you have 5 kids, you say, no, cut the leg, I have to run the family. So the decision is not taken by the scientist, but is taken by the person affected. And then you have another situation, that is when you are in a situation in which there is a lot of uncertainty about normative narratives and a lot of uncertainty on justification, we have to have new social practices. At this point, how do you use science? And then became more complicated. It is exactly where we are now, because you do not have an institutional way to handle the mismatch, because the normative narratives, they are disputed, and the justification, they are full of uncertainty. So you have normal science, consultancy, and post-normal science. And obviously, with sustainability, we are in post-normal science, and then there is nothing we can do. We have to learn, the discussion we had before, to live with the science that cannot tell us what is the best thing to do, cannot tell us that there is no uncertainty, and so on. So basically, you have here, from the political sphere, you get identification of concern and prioritization of concern. From the scientific part, you have useful representation and narrative about causality. And then in this way, you are defining the relevance, the values. And then here you are finding the pertinence of the representation. And then in the middle, you have the way you are framing the issue. Again, you remember before, how you are framing the issue is really important. So this part here of the science is as important as this part here from the political process. You cannot discuss this in an independent way. So what are the problems? If you are selecting your concern and not listening to the other concern, you have hegemonization, unfairness in prioritizing only the concern of the powerful. Then you have lack of rigor if your representation are poor, uncertainty because you do not know which narrative are the causal narrative are the one to be considered. And then hypocognition is here, no more, if you are having a bad framing of your issue. How can you solve this problem? With solidarity with hegemonization, to take in consideration the people, they are not powerful, not fair deliberation, being studying when you are a scientist, reflexivity to decide which narrative are more important. And then in this way, if you sum these 4 factors, you may guarantee quality governance. It's what we call quantitative storytelling. You are not saying what is bad, what is good. You are telling stories about your system by using numbers. And in each story, you can see something that is good, something that is bad, winner, loser, and so on. Okay. So what we want to avoid are implausible socio-technical imaginaries, the circular economy, grand falloon policy legend, and economics of techno-scientific promises, that where we are now. No? All our problems will be solved in this way. Okay, now, are you still alive? Can we go through? Okay. Methodological, okay, so what are the problems with multi-criteria evaluation? How many of you have been in multi-criteria evaluation? Well, okay, so I'll be very, very quick. Just to give what is idea. Okay, so this is a multi-performance space. I think this is about buying a car. So you may have different criteria, the price, the maintenance cost, the status symbol, if you are impressive people with your car, if the car is safe, comfortable, and so on. And then you can have this analysis of the performance of a car. And this is a piece of junk used by a student with low income. So everything is bad, but it's cheap. So the student doesn't care about everything. He wants just it's cheap, he can afford it. And then you will have this with a family, bourgeois family, in which you want to have the car more or less decent, but especially must be safe. And then you will have the car of a young millionaire that doesn't care about the cost of anything, but has to be an impressive car, okay? So why this is important? Because in this case, you see that it's very difficult to combine the values of this indicator, okay? For a person that is very rich, doesn't care about the price. A student, the price is extremely important. So when we build this type of multi-criteria, we are writing in this diagram what are the attributes that are important to define the quality of our result, okay? So in reality, you are describing the utility function of the buyer in this way. So basically, if you are a person that are thinking about buying a Trabant, you need information about certain aspects of the car. They are different than if you are looking for buying a Ferrari. So what does it mean? That you cannot imagine to have a performance space that is the same for all, one size fits all. Depending on what you are doing, you will have to tailor the selection of indicator, not only the indicator, but also the flag model, what is low, what is medium, what is high, depending on where you are. So we cannot imagine to use the same performance space to inform the choice of two persons that are looking for a Ferrari or for a Trabant. Okay. For example, look at that. If you are making a multi-criteria analysis of an industrial meat production process, of a process done by hand in the rural areas, of course, you will need totally different indicators and totally different range of values of what is acceptable or not acceptable, what is cheap, what is not cheap. Okay. So how you work this in terms of decision making? You have what is called a social impact matrix. You have the different indicators here, and then you have the different alternatives here, and then you have indicators for each of them. Then you put the matrix in, and basically you can process the analysis. Is clear? I think it's normal. Okay. And then basically, this is a joke. I was thinking this is the choice that we did when we were in the States with the family to buy a new car. And then, of course, this was the social impact matrix, that is how the social actor perceive the same set of alternatives. So basically, this is my wife, is me, my older daughter Olga, my younger daughter Sofia, and we have been voting about which car we want to have. So my wife was the most important one because she was taxing all the family around. I was informed more or less about the technical aspect. My older daughter, more or less, she was, and the youngest daughter was only, must be red. By the way, none of the alternatives were red because we buy second-hand cars, so we could not choose the color. So what is the point here? It is important because you may have social actors that have veto power, or you may have social actors that are very relevant, social actors that are quite marginal, and totally irrelevant. Okay, this is my Sophia. But what is the point? Let's imagine that at a certain point, for some reason, they go CNN got a service on India, a tribe of Indians in the Amazon forest that nobody care, the Sophia, and then their opinion become relevant. So in this case, all the calculation that we did on these alternatives were totally useless because you have to do another set of alternatives, including red cars. You see, then not only it is important, first of all, what indicator you put here, but also what are the alternatives that you are considering, okay? So the discussion becomes quite complicated. And this is why it is very unwise to do just in one tree. You have to do a couple of iterations to see whether or not this is okay. So this is real. I'm not invented this. I took it from some paper about the conventional multi-criteria approach for the tomatoes chain. And these are all the possible indicators. It's how you weight these different indicators. Is more important the consumption of labor, the consumption. Nobody knows. Only God could make a comparison of all these indicators because there are so many things. How do you know that these are the right indicators? I understand that this has been a heroic effort of economists to come out with something more palatable than cost-benefit analysis. But this idea that you can use software to define what is the best thing to do, in my personal view, is not particularly good. So it is possible to have a sound, reliable issue definition. Issue definition is agreed by those that will use the choice. The scientist is only using the issue definition for the structuring space. It is possible to guarantee an acceptable quality of the narrative. No. 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 Of course, we have to do all of this, all of the above, but knowing that it's not the best thing to do. It's something that makes possible to have a better informed decision process and so on. So this is the idea of quantitative storytelling, is stay away from hypocognition because the models are just a representation on a subset of observable things and so on. So you can have on one side, when you have decided what we are talking about in quantitative terms, you can run models to see, or quantitative storytelling to see who is winning, who is losing, how much will cost, what are the different trade-offs. And then when you are having a first result, you go back to the framing. Can we frame in a different way? here we forgot to address this and this. So, important is to look at the quality of at the representation. Who have chosen the representation? Why we are representing it this way or not? How transparent is the analysis? Stop using models that you put numbers in, it came out. No, the model must be transparent. You have to explain how you get from A to B, not that there is a magic box. And then, so the 3 A's about choice of concern, fairness in the process, and quality of the process in general. Okay, in plain terms is this. Sustainability has to do about how to learning, how to meet the challenge with understanding, deciding and acting in an adequate time to change. This is exactly what we do not know at the moment. We are not imagining that we have to acting in an adequate time to change. Sustainability implies facing the tragedy of change. We have to decide what you are willing to lose in order to preserve something else. And then what we want to lose while becoming something else has to be a collective decision. And this has to be translated in sustainability science. So the question is how it is possible that we are going with the sustainable circular economy. There is a moral dimension. It is difficult to get a man to understand something if his salary depends on him not understanding it. This is a point. Another is common sense. They promised me Mars colony until I got Facebook. To start discussing about seriously about stop the colonies on Mars. And that is another important point, the emperor invisible clause. If you see fraud and do not say fraud, then you are a fraud. I mean, we need hero scientists, scientists that will fight if they don't like what they are told. Okay, still, we made it, guys.
Thank you. Thank you, Mario. I think we have enough time for questions, so please take the floor, take advantage of the fact that we have in here. If you are okay, we have still a bit to...
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you for the other lecture. So putting everything together, I have one practical question. What is the next step? Because after all this, the first lecture and this lecture, I feel a slightly sense of overwhelm in the sense that models are obviously incomplete and they bring us all one part of the reality. Even if I try to approach things in a quantitative way, at best I can get data that are not really comprehensive or perhaps inaccurate. So even if I had to do something else towards circular economy, what is the way to break the lock-in? It's trying to do something completely different, thinking out of the box, but what is the next step? Or I should go for the Nobel Ice and some other truth that make us a common sense of belief in order to move into the next step?
Look, I believe that it is impossible to have the right data, right models. The important fact, you must know that what you are doing is not right.
Fair enough.
No, this is important.
Given
you
that.
have to take responsibility for the fact that you are using stories. If we would use this concept of quantitative storytelling, you are not telling me the truth. I'm telling you a story on which I put numbers. If you don't like, put me another story. Or put other numbers in my story. But we acknowledge the fact that what we are doing is not the reality, the truth. Is our perception and representation that has been structured on the basis of our emotion. This is important. Before everything, you start with emotion. Your emotion, your fears, what you want to do, and then from there, you have concern, from concern, and then you go. When you arrive to numbers, Jesus, it can go whatever way, no? The two things. So I would say that the real issue is to avoid the use science as a religion. The only things that can guarantee you that the science is good is that you check the quality of the process that's been used to produce a new scientific input. Starting from the left side, the individuation of the concern, the prioritization of the concern, and the right side of all the things that we know, which causal relation and narrative are important for our problem, and then how we do the epistemic boxing. These are the possible things to do. These are the pros and cons of what to do, and what are the persons they are affected. These are the epistemic boxes. On this, multi-criteria analysis is very useful because it explicitly forces you to put in a matrix what are the alternatives, why no other alternatives. You prefer electric cars or you can abolish private property of a car. There is another alternative, but nobody take in consideration, no? And then which Sophia doesn't care? Who say that Sophia doesn't care? Then you have what are the stakeholders and the concern, what are the alternatives, and then what is the representation with different indicators that you are doing of the pros and cons of your choice. So there are 3 different fields that you have to guarantee the coherence among the 3. To the best of my knowledge, look, I started doing, I went to Barcelona because it was Giuseppe Monda, he's a famous expert on multi-criteria analysis, trying to understand how does it work, blah, blah, blah. To the best of my knowledge, I'm not sure that there is an explicit procedure that requires you to guarantee the quality of these 3 choices. I think it's a post-normal science has been the first in pushing for considering these 3 aspects of the decision process.
Okay, thank you.
There should be some other microphone. Someone has it? No? Where is it? Disappeared.
Thank you, Mario. I'm working for a network of cities, and part of our job is to transfer knowledge and replicate good practices. And I was guessing how we can do it, taking into account this analysis, because in fact, obviously, every city, even though if they are Mediterranean, have their specificities, even though they face the same challenges, at least in the local level, like mobility, waste management, growth, and growth at all levels, population, economic, and obviously facing climate change, adaptation, and mitigation. But I don't know. I don't know if you have an idea.
Look, this is, there is this Giuseppe Monda now works at the Commission. He published a book many years ago, Societal Multi-Criteria Evaluation. There are softwares for doing this. It's called NIAID, that you can put the equity impact matrix, that would be the stakeholders and the alternatives, and the multi-criteria, the impact matrix, it would be the equity matrix, the impact matrix would be the indicators on the alternatives. There are software, at least 3 or 4. And now I think that they have developed at the Commission a new package for doing this. But again, I am in big favor of this because it makes possible for you to understand what you should be checking. But at the end, I remember Giuseppe once did this in Sicily about water. And of course, the major stakeholder was the mafia. And then, of course, you have to interview the mafia to see what they think or what they don't think. Of course, you can ask someone that is a friend of a friend, you know, but it is complicated when you are doing for real, because the stakeholders with veto power, in general, doesn't want to be exposed, because you may have a lot of lobbies that are affecting the experts. So on paper it's fantastic, but in practical terms became more. And moreover, I don't want to, but I mean, you are not a technician, no? So what is important is that those that are trying to do this are not aware of the possibility of adding additional option in the alternatives to be considered. Maybe nobody would come out with abolish the private property of car when discussing about, you need to, this is what this was the meaning of the first part. We have to open our mind to include new alternatives in things that can be done. Because if we are using the alternative of what is now, nothing happened, basically. Because look what happened now. We have, when I was a kid, we have to do nuclear, no. We have to do biofuel, no. We have to do wind, no. Now, we have to do nuclear, you know. These are the solutions. They go up and down, always on the same list. What is really important is to try to provide new alternatives to expand what we can do, because more or less we have been trying this for 50 years, 60 years. Again, you were saying we should try. The biofuel, they were in the 80s, 90s, 40 years. Has been a disaster everywhere. I mean, we in Europe now import all from, everything is done in the Netherlands. So they are importing feedstock to make biofuel and then re-export, they're not even using it, simply because we have subsidies. Otherwise, nobody will do it. So is this good? Is bringing us forward? I don't think so. I think that this money could be used for something else.
Thank you. We have one here.
Yeah, no, just again a reflection, because I mean that again that's very relevant what you are sharing, and governance in complexities being, I think, one of the topics that is being integrated or trying to be integrated. At least within the EU Commission, there is, as they do forecasting, they're trying to have a more sophisticated analysis of the reality. But you can go on, up to a certain point, and we know the reality is always more complicated because it doesn't fit even a very sophisticated software. And also because I think there is, and you mentioned that, but I think it's good to be explicit, there is a lot of trade-offs and spillover effects. Because what could be good for the EU might not be good for African people or Latin American people, and so you have to make some choice. And who is going to make this choice? EU citizens or a global governance, UN body? We're living in a world where we have Trump coming back in the US. So this is not just about analytical, software or assessments, but there is a political, geopolitical, which makes things much more complicated. So I think also we have to recognize we cannot have the perfect modeling, but at the same time we have to make very important decisions in a very short time frame if we want to cope with, the target climate, target biodiversity. So there is a huge conflict here, and I think we don't know really. How this could move from science to policy, because as you said, there are some interests that could be known, unknown, and so I think just to say that the complexity is not only about the modelization of the complexity, but the implementation of the complexity governance on practice at EU, at national, or at local level.
I absolutely agree with you, and also we'll take decision. Elon Musk. We are living in you see the world what happened. Everyone does whatever he wants. Nobody respects international law anymore. I don't know. What I think that is important that we reflect that we are living in this type of world. We can try the best we can, but be aware that we do the best we can. And then we will leave other things that are out of our control, rather than pretend that everything is okay, that we do the model, or we put a law that after tomorrow we will not consume fossil energy anymore, because it's not that simple.
Yeah, hello. Thanks for the two presentations. In one part of your slides, you put the quality of governance, and I think you're already touching on that. What would be in your idea of good quality of governance? And linking this, I mean, we had a emergency case, which was COVID. We had decision made, more or less based on science with certain uncertainty, which needed to be effective, which wasn't really accepted by everyone. So there was like a democracy part of a democratic process missing, because decisions had to be made fast. And we are now, I think, generally in a democracy crisis. You mentioned these noble lies also led to that institutions are not recognized as such. People are calling for, people need to save the people. Looking at what was the logo of slogan of people in Valencia. So, in all this context, what is then quality of governance? Should there be someone deciding on what we do, as in COVID? How can emerge from in a democratic system a good decision?
Again, the logic of post-normal science was there are two things: the level of uncertainty and the level of speed at which you have to take a decision. We had the example of COVID, which really collapsed the structure of science for governance. Okay, so how you solve it? Things. We trust, we care for each other. Look, I was not particularly convinced about vaccination, but I took the vaccine and I got the COVID. I was hospitalized. So my experience been that it didn't work, but doesn't matter. You have to live in a society in which you are respecting the rule. You do it because we trust each other and we do this way. You know, it's like, here we do this way. So the law is this one, I take the vaccine. I don't take the vaccine because it's scientifically proved that this is the best thing to do. No, there is a social agreement that we do this. Unless you do not have trust, the society doesn't work. This is the point. At the moment, we are no longer generating trust in the society. So, noble lies are crucial, coming to your point. You need noble try because people ask to believe that we are together doing something. But we have not to pull too much because at a certain point, if you get a deluge of toxic truth, then you really deconstruct too much. And people no longer are willing to collaborate with you to do something together. So I don't know. I mean, I wish I knew what to do. But what I'm saying is, I see that we are in a historic moment in which, especially in the European Commission, European Union, it would be time to start dosing the novel lies and the toxic truth, because I see problems in the future. Look, Europe economically is not a big power. Militarily is not a big power. If you have to pay now for military expenses, ciao. With China and things, this idea that we are the leader of the world is a little bit unfounded. We should start changing a little bit the level of expectation, and we can say, the fact I do it, we do this way. But it's stupid, it's not scientific, it doesn't matter. This is what we are, this is what we do. But in order to use this justification for doing things, even they are certain or uncertain, you have to do reasonable things. If you say that we do our transportation with flying donkeys, no. You do not preserve the trust in the system if you are putting your epistemic eggs in flying donkeys. And what I see is that there are a lot of flying donkeys at the moment in the narratives about sustainability in Europe. And we don't want to discuss about biodiversity. This is an horror story, because everyone is worried about climate change. So, I mean, there are a lot of things that are collapsing. It's not just climate change. If tomorrow we had a machine that's regulating the atmosphere at our will, we still will be in the shit after a year. It's not that climate change is the only problem we have. So it is amazing that the only things that we are worried about are the emission of CO2. So I don't know. But again, the only thing is trust. When you are desperate, you don't know, you are with your family, with your own, we care for each other, and we do it. And this is the ultimate justification. But if you start doing because the market, the things, forget it. I mean, no, especially as soon as you start having difficulties.
Other questions?
Yeah. Okay.
Don't be shy. I mean,
don't be shy.
We're really taking advantage of this.
Hi, thank you for your presentations. I'd also like my question is again with political way, or like actually how the society can learn from this, or like actually act from this. I think we basically live in a really fast-paced world, and do you believe that the world can slow down to actually accept this kind of model of going to a solution and then go back to the framing and do another framing in terms of like how the society they see like the emergency in some kind, and also like the political side, they don't have much time as well to process and everything like this. So how to apply this model in a really fast-paced world, or does the world can slow down or something?
Look, I believe that we have an enormous room for maneuvering, for adjusting. But you have to decide to do it. It's like that if you get a problem in your heart, you go to a doctor, you say, you have to change your lifestyle or you are dead in 1 year. Then you change your lifestyle. But if you do not understand, or you are not willing to accept that unless you change your lifestyle, you will die in 1 year, you will never do it. So the point is that if we keep playing with policy legends, we will never take seriously the issue of changing what we do. That what we decide to do has to be decided by us, not by the market, not by the market innovation. This is unacceptable. It worked very well in the 50s, in the 60s, when the capitalist revolution went on. It made us the ruler of the world. Fantastic. The whole story was very nice. We arrived to a point in which we no longer have resources. We are limited by, also on the west side, there are huge problem of equity. Immigration, we have to stop a little bit and start putting into the discussion that the decision of what we do cannot be driven by the market. It's that simple. And moreover, I'm Gallic, I'm not a revolutionary or a dangerous, but I mean, it is quite obvious. We cannot, now, we will see now what happening in the States with Trump. Because, I mean, of course, for a while, you take the money and run, like Musk is a fantastic example. You can get a lot of money still. You can make a lot of money still in the future, but for how long? And for how many? Because you get richer and richer, smaller and smaller quantity of people, the system became more unstable. I don't know, guys. I wish I knew. I mean, I don't know. I am a scientist in crisis. But what I'm saying, I think that we should start really start a discussion about how to do things in a different way. Because moreover, I'm telling you, in my real job, I do analysis of stability factor. You don't want to know. You don't want to know. The aging of the population, a disaster. You have less and less working population, larger and larger demand for services. So we have less and less available work. We have to redo all the residential because the household of elderly people is 1.2, so 5 million is 4 million household, whereas when you have kids, 5 million people is 1 million household. It's no. We will have an enormous amount of changes.
But we don't want to know.
You don't want, again, let alone, you know now with the story with already now with the new oil, because the old good one is gone, you cannot make diesel. So we still buy from Russia because otherwise we will not have diesel. But in South America already they have a problem with diesel. And then changing refinery takes 20 years, it costs billions. I mean, everyone is happy. I mean, we don't want oil anymore. Let me see without diesel how you feel the city. Fascinating.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mario. We need to close because we had other things in the program. I think, thank you from my part. I think this was what we really needed.
Wasted your time.
No, you haven't, absolutely. And given I feel a bit the tension of the room, where especially those that we work in conservation, we never speak about these things, never. Yeah. We always speak about how nice we do the things, so this is really true and needed. But can you end on a positive note about something?
That conservation is really needed. Conservation is really needed.
Yeah,
it's something that you don't make a mistake about there.
Yeah. So we are doing the right thing.
Yeah,
we try to at least. Yeah.
At least you are on the good side of the fresco.
Okay. Thank you so much. So. Great. So I would like to invite you to stay with us as much as you want. We will have a coffee break now. We are staying here all day. You're free to be with us as much as you want. Absolutely. Okay. You are free, of course, to reach out to him. He's here. Not too much, but let him be. And now we have a small thing. I don't know who is going to present it. You. Thank you.
Okay, before the coffee break, we are gonna play a bingo. So you, Mario, are invited to play the bingo game with us. Yeah, it's gonna be a test to understand who is gonna answer with the toxic truth or noble lies. So you all have the card? Do you? Yeah. Okay, so. The cards are in the desk in the entrance, so we are gonna... No, stay a while, just a while. So you got some question to answer, and you just have to put the name for the person that is existing, so don't cheat, please. That is, for